Good morning, everyone. Today I'll be presenting a layman's perspective of my thesis. My name is Souvik Singha. I just completed my thesis defense from Indian Institute of Management, Kozhikode. What I'll try to talk about here is how AI human service recovery plus failure paradigm has developed, and then what are the general perspectives around it, and how the AI has basically caught up according to it. I'll start now. Let me start with something that has probably happened to you. So you're booking a flight and or maybe scheduling a medical test through an application. An AI chatbot is guiding you through the entire process, and then it somehow messes it up. So like a wrong date, a wrong plan, or some wrong recommendations. You complain about it. The company somehow fixes it, apologizes for it, offers compensation for it, maybe even a voucher. But problem solved, right? I don't know. So this is where my thesis actually comes in. Well, not exactly, because the next time you use that service, even if everything goes smoothly, something has changed in a sense that you have changed. You're watching more carefully, reading the fine print now, double checking every confirmation. So this marks, in my thesis, this marks a lingering state of heightened attention, which we have tried to position it as a new concept within marketing, which is known as post-recovery vigilance. But what is post-recovery vigilance? Let's assume that most research on service failure stops on one question as of now. Was the consumer satisfied with the fix? If yes, then the case is closed. But here is one thing, that being satisfied with the fix may not psychologically keep the consumer at ease also. Think of it as a minor car accident. The insurance pays you for the car accident and the car is all repaired beautifully. But next time you drive through the same intersection, your grip somehow tightens up. You are much more careful. You are much more watchful of the ongoing traffic and everything. So my thesis argues, in today's world where companies uses a mix of AI chatbots and human service personnel across omni-channel interaction, across many interaction channels like on the branch as well as on the online platform and all. So this vigilance takes on a very specific pattern depending on the sequence of who failed and who recovered. So if it was AI in the start and then it's a human, or it's a AI in the start and it's an AI, so on those sequences it matters a lot. And crucially, in my thesis, what I found is that these two directions create very distinct form of vigilance, and I'll explain them now. As I said, there are two flavors of this vigilance. So the first kind, in our thesis, we use a fancy word for it. We call it defensive vigilance. This is much more suspicion driven. It comes up when an AI system fails first, and then a human steps in. So why would a human recovery after an AI failure trigger suspicion? So yeah, that's the natural question, because the very fact that a human had to step in sends a message that the system could not handle it on its own. So consumer starts thinking on a tangential note that if the technology is unreliable, what else could go wrong in this next interaction with a human? So they do not question the chatbot, but they question a larger brand in this case. They emotionally distance themselves and avoid re-engaging with the firm or the service firm itself, and carry a cloud of doubt into the future interactions to it. This cloud of doubt manifests in the form of suspicions and then skepticism, which we call it as defensive vigilance. The second flavor of this proactive vigilance is, we call it of this post-recovery vigilance, is called proactive vigilance. This one is a bit more constructive in nature, because it shows up when a human, so it shows up in the sequence when the human fails first, and in the next interaction, the person has to interact with an AI. So generally, the consumers do not withdraw in these cases. What we see here is that proactive vigilance is marked by the elements of such as control seeking and information seeking. So instead of psychologically or distancing itself, which we witnessed in the previous form of vigilance, which was defensive vigilance, they start double checking the responses of AI. So what they do is they look for more information, they look for more detailed questions, they ask more detailed questions to the AI, and they try to understand what the AI is trying to deliver as a service and what is it doing in behind to deliver that service. So, naturally, the next question which comes is, okay, this phenomena is there, and then across these two directions of AI to human and human to AI, you have these distinct form of vigilances, which is defensive and proactive, respectively. But why would it happen in the first place? So the first mechanism behind this is, we take it from psychology, and we call it as psychological contagion. It is the idea that a negative meaning can spread from one experience to the another, even when the people or system involved are completely different, or the negative experience or the negative object or the negative element from the system has been completely removed. What I wish to say here is that, let us take an analogy here, that I'm at a table eating food, and suddenly a fly comes in. It sits at the corner of my plate and then takes off. So I feel disgusted by that event. So I take the plate up and then throw away the food, clean the plate thoroughly, and then take the next serving of the food. And while taking the next serving of the food, I ensure that the food doesn't touch the corner on which the fly sat initially. Although here myself, I have removed the negative connotation or the negative event here. Myself have done it, even though it still creates a contagion within my mind, or like some contamination is there in my mind, psychological contamination, which says that, okay, the food cannot touch that corner of the food. We take a similar idea in this service failure context. So we say that the service failure here is acting as that contamination. It's acting as that negative residue or the negative event, which creates a negative symbolic residue, which hinders the communication further down the line in the second or third interactions. So in largely service context, when AI chatbot fails you, the failure does not stay contained to chatbots. That's what we are saying. It psychologically contaminate what comes next also. Even a perfectly competent human agent can or has to bear the algorithmic failure which happened in the past. So consumers feel as though the new interaction carries the traces of the old failure. But when the direction is reversed, when it is going from human to AI, the contagion effect is somewhat weaker. Human errors are easily seen as isolated personal slip-ups, or consumers do not feel the same kind of symbolic contamination spreading to the AI systems. So it has also been talked about within the academic literature. In order to say it in a much more friendly way, we can say that humans and AI can be are generally treated differently by the consumers at large. So same mistake done by a human would not be punished very harshly in comparison to an AI. So AI would be punished much harshly, at least on a psychological level. So, okay, we have seen, okay, there's a phenomena which we have tried to establish, which answers the what part of the question. Next part, which we answered is like, okay, this phenomena has certain types also, or certain nuances based on the direction of the interaction which is taking place. After that, we tried to answer the why question of the thesis. It's like, okay, this is happening, but why this is happening? So we take help from psychological contagion theory in the research and presented psychological contamination as somewhat of a mediator or like the one which drives the mechanism. So in the next part, what we're trying to answer is what can brands do about it? So there are four strategies to it. So this is where the research also gets practical. So the first is brand level apologies in relation to channel level apologies. So when a brand sends a message from the top, say a personalized email from the head of customer relationships, it reduces the defensive vigilance far more than what a chatbot saying sorry for the inconvenience in the app itself. So why this would happen? Because it signals a brand takes ownership of the previous mistake, not just the failure of the channel or the failure of the service. It takes ownership for it. Second mitigation strategy for brands could be modality distance. If the failure happened digitally, let's assume on an application or through via voice chats, through a chatbot, recovering through a noticeably different channel, like going for an in-visit branch, visit to a branch, or a phone call, a communication with a human agent, create a psychological reset. As in, like, since these two channels are perceptually different, it creates a sensory contrast, which helps consumers mentally separate the failure from the recovery itself. And that makes symbolic repair much more credible, in a sense that modality distance can help symbolic repair in a sense. Third is brand symbolic integrity, which acts as a buffer. So brands that maintain a consistent identity or set of values across consumer-facing channels, this is what we call brand symbolic integrity. So think of companies that feel the same wherever you or wherever you are on their app. So it could be a banking app, such as SBI. It could be an airline app, such as Indigo, something like airline services, such as Indigo. So when the brand feels coherent in their messaging across consumer channels, consumers are more likely to treat the failure as an anomaly rather than a symptom. It somehow buffers you against the algorithmic or the human failure which happened in the previous interaction. And the fourth explanation which we found as a mitigation strategy is explainability for the AIs. This is particularly potent for containing proactive vigilance, because in proactive vigilance, the consumer is actively looking for information or control with the when it is interacting with the AI. So as an AI explainability, it directly reduces or addresses that cognitive load which has been put on the consumer itself. So these are the four strategies which we have discussed in this thesis to largely summarize the mitigation part of it, or how to manage these things. So with this, we conclude the larger part of the thesis in itself. So first, and then I would like to express my gratitude towards my REC members, Professor Srijesh, who was REC chair, Professor Gladys, who was the REC area member, and then Professor Nemiraj Jadiappa, who was the REC cross area member. And then I would also like to express gratitude towards my TEC members, Thesis Evaluation Committee members, who played a key role in enhancing the quality of the thesis in itself. Thank you so much.